Hey everyone, and welcome back to the channel. So in today's head-to-head comparison, we're going to take a look at the 2025 BMW M2 and the 2025 BMW M4. Huge shout out to Hendrick BMW Northlake for providing both of these vehicles for me today. Take a look at their website, that link is down in the description, as well as the full detailed reviews I made on both of these. So if you want to see them in greater details, take a look at those separate review videos. So let's get right into it, starting off with the M2. So these have a starting MSRP around $64,900, and then for the M4, they start around $79,100. You can get these equally spec'd for their MSRPs if you go with a more fully loaded M2 versus a base M4. So as we move on to what powers both of these, there's the 3-liter inline 6-cylinder twin power turbo for the M2. This is paired to either the 8-speed or the 6-speed manual transmission. With the 8-speed automatic, you get 473 horsepower, 443 pound-feet of torque. So there is a slight increase in the torque for the automatic versus the manual. Over on the M4, this has the 3-liter twin power turbo inline 6 paired to either the 8-speed or the 6-speed manual. This pumps out 523 horsepower, 479 pound-feet of torque. So a significant jump in horsepower. You only get rear-wheel drive for the M2. The M4 comes in rear-wheel drive or all-wheel drive. Both of these models weigh in around 3,800 pounds. You can expect 0 to 60 to be as quick as 2.8 seconds for the all-wheel drive M4, and then as quick as 3.9 seconds for the automatic rear-wheel drive M2. We have top speeds of 177 miles and 174 miles an hour. And then as far as fuel economy goes, you're looking right around 16 miles per gallon in the city for both, and then 23 for the M2, 22 for the M4 for the highway. And now let's take a look at the exterior styling for both of these models because they have a very distinctive front-end design difference. You'll notice more of the traditional design for the kidney grille on the M2, as well as large cutouts in the lower section. We have squared off inlets on both sides, LED headlights there, and then a nice bulge in the hood. Over on the M4, we have a much larger kidney design for the grille. Now there's a forward-facing camera on this model that is optional for the M2, so we have some slight differences between more of a base model M2 and a fully loaded M4, options that you can also get on the M2. So you'll notice there's some carbon fiber goodies, but the inlets are much differently shaped. There's also parking sensors. The headlights also have a much different design to them. So we have that dark housing with the blue accents versus more of a lighter housing with a much different DRL shape there. And then the lines on the M4 continue off of the grille there, going all the way back versus being much separated on the M2. Now, as far as the side profiles go, wheel options are going to vary. You have some different options, of course, for both of these. For the M2, there's the gloss black multi-spoke wheels with the blue M Sport brakes. You can also go for red. For the M4, you can get red or blue as well, or opt for the carbon ceramics. So you get the gold calipers there, and then a really nice multi-spoke wheel. There's the M4 comp badge behind that, and then a separate lower side skirt there finished off in gloss black. No badging for the M2, and then the lower side skirt is basically integrated into that lower section. So a little bit different with that two-tone look. Now for the overall side design, the M4 looks a little bit more stretched. There's some nice lines in the lower section as well as underneath the door handle. And for the M4, you can opt for the carbon fiber roof. You can also get a sunroof at no cost, so that way you can match the M2 here, which has the sunroof up top there. And then for the side design, it's a lot smaller looking, a little bit more of an angular shape in that rear fender there. And this also has a different design for the door handles, more of that flush mount versus a traditional design on the M4. Now, as we work our way to the back, for the M2, there's a small trunk-mounted spoiler, dark housings for those taillights. There's the backup camera, sensors, quad-tip dual exhaust. And then as we work our way to the cargo space, this is a very practical vehicle. There's no spare tire or storage underneath the floor, but you can fold down these back seats. So that way you can get a lot more storage, making this a practical vehicle to drive every day. Now for the M4, this does have some optional goodies like the carbon fiber trunk-mounted spoiler. There's a backup camera. The taillights have these bundle fibers in them, the LEDs there, so much different than the dark housings on the M2. There's also carbon fiber in the lower section, that quad tip dual exhaust, and then some more gloss black accents. Now as we take a look here, just by pushing on the button, you get the power trunk lid. Now you have about the same amount of space, no spare, no storage underneath the floor, but again, you can fold down the back seats there for more storage. And then up top, you have those two buttons, so you can close that without actually having to do that yourself. Let's work our way to the interiors now, where you have so many different options to go with. So just for today's video, this is what we are looking at. You have a really nice door panel, memory seating adjustments, Harman Kardon, all of your other controls there, and then a really nice design for these two-tone seats. They are power operated with the manual adjustment up front, and then you can easily slide these forwards to hop into the back. Now, you're not buying either of these to be a full four-seater, but I can make it work at 5'10". You have to move that passenger seat up, and then my head is touching the headliner here. So they could work around town if you needed to. You have a little bit of storage in the middle there, and you can also fold down this middle seat too, just if you need some more practicality there. But if this is your only vehicle, it's going to give you a good bit of space for cargo or for people. Now, for the M2, you do get the flat bottom design for the steering wheel. And like I said, I have full reviews on both of these, so I'll go through this a little bit quickly. You have your M1, M2, paddle shifters, and then for the gauge cluster, you do get a little bit of information that you can scroll through. So you have all this content here, as well as the head-up display. And then on the left and the right, all of that is fixed information. You get your headlight adjustments on one side with the air vent, and then both of these screens are going to be very similar in the information that you get. Your drift analyzer, your M-lap timer, all of your interior lighting. You have your home screen here. You also have your fan speed or your fan adjustments, your nav, music. You can get ventilated seats and a heated steering wheel for the M2, so those are options, along with the wireless charging, which is an option. You have all these controls for that screen, and then if you opt not to get the 360 camera, you have the backup camera and then front sensors and your rear sensors there. There's also park and the ability to adjust the transmission there. You have some more controls here, and then you can also change the gauge cluster by going into M mode. So you can get a little bit more performance-oriented features there for the head-up display and for the gauge cluster. You also have setup. So you can go into setup and configure M1 and M2. So this is how you can go through all of this depending on how you want everything to react. And then you get some storage in the middle. You have storage in the glove box, of course. And then there's garage door buttons up top. And then you have the adjustments for the sunshade and the sunroof there. Both of those are automatic. And then here's a look at visibility over both shoulders. So it's pretty easy to see. And then as we make our way to the M4, maybe you'll be able to notice that back window there, slightly larger. They may be nearly identical. It's a little bit hard to tell, but we'll be able to tell once we hop in. Now for this M4, this has a very bold interior. So again, color options are going to differ. Same Harman Kardon, memory seating adjustments, everything else is similar, just a little bit different of a layout. And then we have the same controls for these seats. Automatic with that manual leg support there, and then being able to move the seat forwards. Now, surprisingly, in the back of the M4, you have a little bit of a difference here. You do get a little bit more legroom. You have climates in the middle. There's no storage like in the M2. However, you do get storage in the door panels, which the M2 is lacking. And then you can still fold down this middle seat as well. Now, at 5'10", it's a little bit easier to sit in the back. My head is still touching the headliner, but I feel like it's just slightly bigger, gives you just a little bit more room. Interesting to see that it's not a significant difference, but again, you're not buying these for the back seat, but I'd say it's a very similar amount of space. The real main difference is you get a lot more power in the M4. So let's fire this one up, where this has the Alcantara steering wheel. We have much larger paddle shifters here, same M1 and M2 controls, and then we have pretty much the same information going through the gauge cluster here, along with the head-up display. So all that is going to be very similar. A big difference, you get storage on this left side, so you can place your sunglasses or something. You have the headlight adjustments, and then, like I mentioned, this screen is nearly identical. You have all of the same information, Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, and then for this model, this gets heated and ventilated seats, heated steering wheel. Again, those are options. As well as carbon fiber, there's also this lighting underneath, and then we have wireless charging. Everything down below here is going to be pretty much the exact same thing. However, you get the forward-facing camera, which again is an option in the M2. So that way you can have your 360 view here and just get a little bit better visibility. You can get your automatic parking and your backup assistance too, which is nice. So you have the same M mode, so you can do the same settings for the gauge cluster and the head-up display. You have the same setup control. You get an exhaust note button, which was on the M2 there. And then same amount of storage there, same amount of storage in the glove box. You have the garage door buttons up top. And then if you opt for the sunroof, you have the same controls. If not, you just get the headliner there, of course. And then honestly, visibility is pretty much the same. There's not a huge difference between both of these models since they do feature a similar design and shape overall. But there's a look at the exterior and interior for both of these M models from BMW. Let's get them out on the road and see how they drive. So let's start off behind the wheel for the M2, where we'll give it a slight acceleration. We have everything in the M settings here. Now, like I said, I did the full detailed review, so if you want to see more driving behind the wheel of this model, take a look at those videos where I'm going through some twisty roads and testing some of its performance for what I can do with a dealer vehicle. But the M2 is a really nice vehicle. What's interesting though to see is that it weighs pretty much the same as the M4 now. It used to be a significantly lighter, so it's interesting to see that we have nearly identical vehicles with more horsepower from the M4. So if you're trying to decide which one to get, you know, the weight is going to be about the same, so you're not getting a smaller vehicle with the M2, but you still get a very nice vehicle and one that's going to give you that M performance for significantly less in the overall cost. So we have more of a base model in today's video here. It also sounds really good too. So that exhaust isn't too loud. You could change that if you would like to, but overall, it's a nice driving vehicle. It's very smooth and refined, what you would want basically from BMW. So if you want a luxury focused sports car and one that's not all that expensive relatively speaking compared to some of the other available models and competition that you can get, I think the M2 is definitely one of the best sports cars you can get for the money. And then you can also get the manual transmission if you would like that. Of course, the automatic is going to be much quicker. And you have a lot of tech, a lot of options, again, depending on the price. So you get a well-rounded daily driving vehicle. That's a lot of fun. Let's hop into the M4. And behind the wheel now for the M4, it definitely gives you a little bit more of a raw driving experience, especially with the options that you can get on the M4. Some of these aren't available on the M2, like the paddle shifters here that are finished off in carbon fiber, much larger too, so a little bit more engaging, I would say. And just the feel of this is slightly different. Now, at the speeds I'm going right now, I'm not going to be able to tell a noticeable difference, but again, I drove these a lot more in the full reviews, testing the handling and everything like that. For the daily driving type of videos that I do, they are going to feel very similar. Now, you do get a lot more power out of the M4, and so it just boils down to, you know, the price you want to spend on your car. Honestly, I don't know which one I would rather want. I think I would go M2, but I like the paddles in this automatic. It's so hard to tell. They're nearly the same vehicle, which is a little bit interesting. Comment down below, would you go M2 or M4? I don't have a clear answer for that, so it's interesting to see BMW have two vehicles that are kind of so similar that it's not a one or other. It's, let me drive both of them and kind of see which one works and which one is going to be better. So it really just depends on, once you hop inside, which one you're going to like. And again, for the daily driving I'm doing, they both seem very similar. As far as performance driving, honestly, I would think they are going to be very similar. They have similar 0 to 60 times. There's also a similar top speeds, depending on the packages that you go with. And then, you know, manual or automatic. So it's a tough one. Let me know which one you would go with. Out of the two today, we're basically at both ends of the spectrum, so that way you can see the differences between some of the options available. We have more of a base M2 and pretty much a fully loaded M4 competition. If price wasn't an issue, I'm going with this M4. I really like the design of it. I like the Alcantara, all the carbon fiber. It's a really cool spec for this model, and you can get some of these options on the M2, so you can spec them the way that you would like to. So we have a really good array of options and pricing, so it just depends on what you want to spend basically. They're both super fun to drive. So back now from our quick test drives behind the wheel of the M2 and the M4. Check out the full detailed reviews where I drive these on some twisty roads to test some of the handling and their performance. Honestly, I don't have a clear answer between the M2 and the M4. Personally, I'd probably go with the M2 just because it is significantly less. However, we have some really cool options that you can't get on the M4 that are only available on that. So again, it really just boils down to which one would you rather have for the money? What are you willing to spend? The options that you personally want and you are going to enjoy on a daily basis. You can daily drive both of these. M4 might be a little bit more raw feeling, a little bit more track focused, but the M2 is pretty much just as track focused. So comment down below, let me know which BMW M model you are going with, M2 or M4. Give this video a huge thumbs up and consider smashing that subscribe button so you guys don't miss out on our daily uploads. I will see you all in the next video.